Why are you doing this podcast today?
I have no idea. I knew that BeerBiceps has extended an invitation and I said yes. I know that this is a very cleverly posed question so that I can say I'm such a big fan.
No, not at all.
Of course it is. He's lying. Everything he says is not true.
Look at this face. You think this face could lie?
Listen, I've been in the acting business. I know a hustler when I see one.
Pardon me for saying this. No, say it straight up, okay? I get a lot of Durga Mata energy from you.
It's the painting, it's not me.
Like there's like a Mata or something in front of me.
See, I told you the Mata problem will happen.
Another epic episode of TRS, another political episode of TRS, this time with the legend Smriti Irani ji. This is also a slightly different episode of TRS because we shot it in two parts. One part was shot in her office. We saw the work and career-oriented version of Smriti ma'am. And then one part was shot at home where we saw the family-oriented, motherhood-oriented, homemaker version of Smriti ma'am. You're going to enjoy this one. With all my political podcasts, my intention is almost always to bring out the human side of the politician that we're speaking with. And I have come to realize that there's a lot to learn from the life and perspectives of the human mind of politicians. You'll understand what I mean when you watch the entire episode today. Lots more episodes with other politicians are going to be coming up thanks to TRS's collaboration with MyGov India. So make sure you follow them and make sure you enjoy today's incredibly special episode with Shri Smriti Irani. My first political podcast. How are you?
This is an easy one. You
Why?
don't have a neta. You have somebody who's been in media, so can accommodate a youngster from media.
Blessings.
I know.
Are you a blessed person?
I am.
Why are you a blessed person?
I was born in the national capital in 1976, just after the emergency. Father from a Congress establishment, mother who's in Sanghi. So you can imagine how volatile that situation must have been.
Why did they get married?
But I have no idea. And that is a question I often ask them. But I was born to a parent who had $150. And we are seated here today at a ministry office. I was born exactly, 10 kilometers from here in a government hospital.
Did you have political ambition?
No, not when I was in the government hospital in 76. And my parents, their first housing quarters was a room above a tabela, which is another 15 kilometers from here. So I think the journey of these 15 kilometers has been stupendous and would not be possible if not for blessings.
Did you have political ambition?
No, never. I only had one ambition, that whatever I do, I'll be the best at it.
I hate bringing this up, but when I saw you as like Tulsi on screen as a kid, I felt very safe looking at you.
Which is good. Which is what I intended.
Yeah.
I remember when I began the project, I had absolutely zero money. Newly married, not even 30,000 bucks in the bank. And I had borrowed money from a bank to buy a home. It doesn't sound very flashy right now, but it was around 27 lakhs. And I remember I could just about scrape by to give the down payment for the house. And I remember somebody walking into my set one day offering me an ad for a pan masala. And that money was exactly 10 times the amount that I owed the bank. I refused the ad. And people looked at me as though I've gone absolutely crazy. They're like, mad, you need the money. And I knew that there were families watching, youngsters watching. I said, can you imagine somebody who's trying to make them feel as though you're a part of a family suddenly selling pan masala? So I said no conscientiously, said no to all those so-called waters that are flavored waters sold by alcohol companies. So there have been conscientious decisions about my media journey. And that's especially because I knew kids were watching. So I'm happy as a adult today to hear a youngster say that as a child, I made him feel safe.
Yeah. You did? I have to.
It is not great for my age though, because I'm 47 now and I have people who are like 60 years old with absolutely white hair saying, मैंने बचपन में आपको देखा था. And I have to correct them that भाई साहब वो जो आपने देखा था वो 80 साल की वो जो थी ना वो that was just makeup. But it's nice to be counted as family for so many people.
Yeah. Honestly, that did play a role in your initial political career at
No,
least.
it didn't. It didn't. Absolutely not.
I mean, you gained
I was
love and
very
trust.
clear politically and I was clear in the media as well that I will never use my attire, my persona as Tulsi, no dialogues from any political stage, no interventions in my Tulsi avatar to ask for votes. So if you look at my political landscape, you will never find a video where I'm giving dialogues from my show or where I'm wearing the Tulsi costume to go and ask for votes. You will never find, not a single one.
But
it was a very, very conscious decision, that too.
Okay. Why are you doing this podcast today?
I have no idea. I knew that BeerBiceps has extended an invitation and I said yes. I know that this is a very cleverly posed question so that I can say I'm such a big fan.
No, not at all.
Of course it is. He's lying. Everything he says is not true.
Look at this face. You think this face could lie?
Listen, I've been in the acting business. I know a hustler when I see one. So we've had many chocolate-looking heroes who have lied through their teeth. So don't get me there. But no, for me, it's an opportunity to converse because it is important that every segment of communication is leveraged.
Yeah.
And I'm using that word very judiciously. Leveraged so that people can make up their own minds.
Yeah. For me, I'm here to learn today from you. And that's why I'm really glad it's you who's first. I always find it easier to talk to anyone.
Get backed by somebody you know.
No, I find it easier to talk to someone who has some sort of past in media.
I think
you get this vibe.
You have a history of creating conversations where you take a position of learning. I've seen you use that statement with many people.
Yeah, but isn't it how it should be? Especially when this format with podcasting.
This is how it is not. So that is why possibly podcasts like yours are a bit refreshing because you do meet a lot of people and it's a very natural progression. When you have a wealth of information, then you do have people who tend to say, listen, I know better. And that's a very natural human psychological impact of gathering a lot of knowledge. So it's nice to have somebody who's a great listener. I mean, you're a good talker. That's why the podcast or videocast is very successful. But what is, I think, one of the greatest advantages of engagement with you is that you're a good listener.
Thank you. Tell my girlfriend.
Which one?
I'm kidding. No. I have to begin this conversation. We haven't begun it yet. With just a simple, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I won't say I'm nervous. I am confident. I'm very positive about this whole...
Why would you be nervous?
I think people are telling me to be nervous.
Why?
While talking to people like you.
No, people say 1,000 things. But why is it that it has impacted you personally?
Maybe just the novelty of it. Like it's a new thing talking to politicians. Especially those who are in power.
And I think that is the one thing that should not be a novelty. You elect or do not choose to elect people to office, but that should not stop the conversation. You may or may not agree with somebody's political ideological position, but that should not stop conversations. And I think that is one of the greatest challenges today. Two people who disagree need to disagree respectfully. Sit down, listen to each other.
Okay. You headed the Ministry of Education for some time.
Yep.
I want to ask you two questions. One, what's your learnings from that phase of your life? What went on because I'm sure when you're heading that ministry, you get to see it from a top-down view and things get revealed to you.
Yeah.
Second question, the big complaint that most viewers have is that we're taught parts of history in our history textbooks and not the kind of history that we should be taught, which would instill pride as Indians.
Yeah, I totally agree with the second part.
Okay.
But let me give you the process.
Sure.
I'm sorry, it'll sound a bit boring.
No, go for it.
You have to have the national curriculum framework, right? Which tells every state and sets the national tone for how curriculum is to be written. That curriculum framework cannot be administratively, constitutionally be established till you change the national policy.
Okay.
Our education policy was not changed for 4 decades. 40 years, nobody touched it.
Why?
So when students used to complain, अरे यार दुनिया कहाँ दौड़ रही है, हम क्या पढ़ रहे हैं? The reason for it was that till you don't change policy, nobody can change curriculum by law. So when I became Minister Education, I said, और कुछ भी कर रहे हैं पहले पॉलिसी देखो, पॉलिसी कैसे बदलोगे ना. हमारे देश में 40 साल पहले पॉलिसी कैसे बनी थी? 10 guys from academia sat, 10 babus sat, they made the policy. And we had never had an outreach to people who are affected, students, parents, colleges, universities, and asked them, aapko kya chahiye? So I decided and I requested the Prime Minister. I said, sir, he said, how will you manage? I said, I'll digitally leverage support also. So MyGov, we use them. I reached out to 2 lakh village education councils in our country. People didn't know they existed. Then in every district of our country, we asked every university, every college, we asked parent-teacher organizations, student communities, UNICEF, UN Women भी पूछ लिया, सबसे पूछ लिया. जो पुराने शिक्षा मंत्री थे उनको भी लिख के बुला के सर आपको कुछ बोलना है क्या? सारे MPs, जितने भी राजनीतिक दल के MP है, नहीं कि सिर्फ बीजेपी वालों को फोन, सबको पूछा लिख के कि आप बताइए. Everybody contributed to the new education policy. Once that is established, then your curriculum comes, then the changes that you're talking about are going to be made.
How long do you think this will take?
That policy came 2020.
And it'll gradually happen over the next decade?
No, now it is already, the curriculum framework is already at work. For instance, in Anganwadi, which I am responsible for, I just 2-3 weeks back announced a Poshan Bhi Padhai Bhi scheme, where what we have done is kids under the age of 6, उनको क्या पढ़ाना है? It's very not text heavy, right? They want to learn from games. They want to learn from clay. They want to learn from songs. They want to learn by drawing pictures. So we have brought together from all states, all songs, all learnings, shared it with everybody. And we said, do it in mother tongue. Some kid who's speaking, let's say, a tribal-based dialect, you can't expect them to suddenly learn Baba Black Sheep, right? So I've said customize it to the local needs of the community, of the family, of the child. And then, because if I had said this, कि अगर आप मातृभाषा में पढ़ाएंगे तो अच्छा होगा, nobody would believe me, right? They would have said, you're very regressive. But if you look at international study, every time a child is taught maths and science in their mother tongue, foundational education, they remember it for life. I have seen kids, and I keep calling them kids. I have a 21-year-old son. I have seen students from colleges like SRCC in Delhi, from IITs and IIMs, leave because they have had their early education in Hindi and they cannot come up to speed with the English courses being taught. And that is why if you look at the national education policy, it talks about even higher education in the mother tongue. Why should people miss out on opportunities just because they can't speak?
Because you've worked with PM Modi for this long now, what does the press and the public not know about him as a person?
That anybody who comes and claims to you they're very close and they've seen him up close is all crap.
No, but when you work together, some sort of deeper character reveal
like
happens.
I said, people who actually work very closely with him for the past 25 years that I've known, all of them, you have never seen them in the press.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
There is not a single human being, and I know of his team, which has been with him through some of the best and the worst of times, especially the worst of times.
What have you picked up from him as a professional?
What have I picked up from him as a person?
Or professional?
No, I'll tell you as a person. I don't remember. This is Minister Education, all right? My kid collapsed. My son collapsed. There was this controversy playing out in Parliament. Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji is born on the 25th of December, right? So on 25th of December is Good Governance Day. So I said, whoever is wherever, any kid can write a good essay and we'll give them a prize. It's a no-brainer. So who's the one kid who's in a hostel? It's a Navodaya Vidyalaya, which is a hostel, which is obviously functional 24/7. There is no government holiday there. There's a big hangama in Parliament. Isne Christmas badal diya. I was like, what? Isne Christmas ki chuttiyan hata di. I go, when did that happen? And my kids are calling me, what have you done? I'm like, I haven't done anything. In the midst of all of that, I'm running between, Parliament. My son collapses. He's in 10th standard. And that was my first year as a politician in Delhi. I didn't know what to do. Picked him up, ran to AIMS. And I had answers to give in Parliament the next morning. I had this controversy which was raging, and I just didn't know what to do. And when you're, when your baby just, 10th standard, but still, when your kid collapses, it's like your world comes crashing down. In the midst of all that mayhem, your boss calls. Kya hua? And like, my kid collapsed. Can you imagine having that conversation with Prime Minister Modi? I'm like, my baby just collapsed. He said, just everybody calm down, look after your kid and tell me what you need. So I ran between AIIMS, Delhi and Parliament for the next 7 days with my kid in hospital. But my boss was like, what help do you need? You need help at the hospital? You need help at work? You tell me. That is what makes him a person to die for. You go to war for such a man.
I get to learn a lot and I get to see lots of different perspectives. The kind of perspective I've got from the show, and I try keeping a very centrist approach if we're ever doing a political conversation, because that's just how I look at media. I think that you should be a centrist and you should nitpick
be
both
nothing.
sides. You should be nothing, exactly.
In fact, you should not be centrist, leftist or rightist.
Nothing, I feel the closest way to define nothing is centrist. That's why I'm using the word centrist. And I think it's the ethical thing to do as a media professional. What I do wish to ask you is about the other side. You're heading the Ministry for Minority Affairs now.
Yes.
And I think you're the first practicing Hindu who's like headed it.
Yes.
You know the kind of criticism that comes your way. And I'll also represent a lot of my Muslim friends in Bombay itself, or the people who've been on the show. Their narrative has gone from being skeptical to bad to now, geopolitically, yeah, the current government is good. So it's gone from being bad to...
Firstly, I think that you're in a constitutional position where you cannot afford to say that I can serve you only if you're from my community. I can serve you only if you're from my caste. Which means I can serve you only if you're from my age bracket or my gender, which is absolutely hogwash. So Mamata Banerjee, being a Hindu, was heading minorities ministry in her state.
Yeah.
It becomes a big issue when I am giving that responsibility. My issue is, if you're truly a secular state, does not matter who's sitting in that position.
Why don't you break it down in terms of what's the role of the Ministry for Minorities for a 13-year-old?
See, I honestly think that when this ministry was thought of, at that time, the then Congress government felt कि भाई एक religion के लिए अलग से बना देते हैं. But when Prime Minister Modi says कि religion आपका चाहे कुछ भी हो, अगर आप गरीब हो, you should get XYZ. That is a much more cohesive and secular approach.
Yeah.
अब मैंने ये statement दे दिया. Somebody will take this, splice it and say, Smriti Irani announces on BeerBiceps that she does not like the ministry. So that is a danger of having conversations freely and fairly. For instance, I am the minister in charge who has reduced the cost of Hajj. How so? Accommodation में आप जब जाते थे हज में, आपको बाल्टी हज कमेटी से लेनी पड़ती थी. क्यों? चद्दर हज कमेटी से लेनी पड़ती थी. क्यों? मैंने कहा बाल्टी चद्दर क्यों बेच रहे हैं? आपको अपना कैबिन बैगेज भी हज कमेटी को पैसे देके लेना पड़ता था. फ्री मार्केट से नहीं ले सकते. वो खर्चा ही मुसलमान को 50,000 रुपए पड़ता था. तो मैंने हज कमेटी से कहा कि आप क्यों जोर दे रहे हैं कि इसी ब्रांड का लगेज लेना है, यही ब्रांड की बाल्टी लेना है, वो आपका काम नहीं है. सेकेंड, मुझे ये बोला गया कि भाई अब हम चाहते हैं कि जब हम वहाँ जाए मक्का मदीना में तो XYZ हमारा खर्चा होगा रहने के लिए. मैंने कहा कि अगर आप कंपेटिटिवली इस खर्चे को देखें, क्या ये खर्चा कम हो सकता है? वो खर्चा कम हो गया. So I think it doesn't matter which community I belong to. What matters is when I'm in this position, can I serve the interest of all communities well?
What's your message to
For
minorities
instance,
watching this?
No, I think Indians cannot be a minority in their own country. Firstly, I'm married to a Parsi and he's never pranced about
being a minority.
That I'm a minority. Every Parsi that you meet very proudly says I'm an Indian. And that is the feeling I'd like every Indian to inculcate in themselves and their kids and their families. आप अपने देश में अपने लोगों को नहीं कह सकते कि भाई तुम अलग हो, हीन भावना से ग्रस्त हो, हम तुमसे बेहतर. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता. और उसको ना करने के लिए जरूरी है कि आप सबको बोलो कि भाई हम सब इक्वल हैं. कुछ अनइक्वल इंटरवेंशन जैसे कांग्रेस पार्टी ने की बहुत सारी चीजों में, मुस्लिम रिजर्वेशन कर दिया, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनली वैलिड नहीं है. लेकिन जब आप कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल उस गलती को सुधारते हो तो कांग्रेस पार्टी जाके मुस्लिम कम्युनिटी में कहती है देखा ये लोग मुस्लिम विरोधी हैं. मतलब आपने पहले कुछ किया जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनली मैंडेटेड नहीं है, फिर जो दुरुस्त किया गया तो आपने कह दिया देखा बीजेपी मुसलमानों के खिलाफ है.
Do you think that the way minorities feel about the current government is a lot due to algorithms, social media, campaigns, marketing?
You know, I am of the belief that when we are talking about various interventions of the Prime Minister, सारी interventions poorest to the poor की हैं. Poorest to the poor में SC/ST community आ गया, minority community आ गया. तो जब आप कहते हैं कि किसी का आपके खिलाफ एक नज़रिया है, क्या वो नज़रिया इसलिए क्योंकि वो डिनाइड अ राइट, या क्या वो नज़रिया इसलिए है बिकॉज यू बिकम अ पॉलिटिकल टूल फॉर समबडी? इतना तो मैं धड़ल्ले से कह सकती हूँ दैट नो सिटीजन इन दिस कंट्री हैज़ बीन डिनाइड द फ्रूट्स ऑफ डेवलपमेंट. फॉर इंस्टेंस, नरेंद्र मोदी जब सड़क बनाते हैं तब कहते हैं कि सिर्फ बीजेपी वाले चल सकते हैं, नहीं ना. तब कहते हैं सिर्फ हिंदू चल सकता है. जब नलके से पानी देते हैं तब कहते हैं कि नहीं मैं उसी घर में पानी दूंगा जहाँ से वोट आए. डजंट डू दैट, राइट?
Okay, yeah. The one thing I've learned from my conversation with Sanjeev Sane also is that infrastructure is one of the main focuses of PM Modi himself. But other than that, what's the future looking like? There's a lot of young people watching
that
this.
is an anomaly.
As in?
Because to believe that Modi is only about brick and mortar highway or infrastructure, that
one
is
of his priorities.
It's one amongst many. I think that if you look constitutionally, what has he done, right? Your country never had a lady from a poor tribal family becoming the president of India, the supreme commander of the armed forces. You have that in President Draupadi Murmu. Your country did not have a Dalit community representative as president of India. Prime Minister Modi has done that. Your country is now a non-permanent member of the Security Council. Yeah, Prime Minister Modi has done that. Your country, apart from vaccines, right? We talk about everybody. 160 countries. What you saw in Papua New Guinea was what? A reciprocation of the support we gave as a country during times where countries were falling apart or pulling at each other.
Yeah.
So to limit Prime Minister Modi to one segment, for instance,
collectively as a team, what are you guys looking forward to over the next 10 years?
That is the beauty of Prime Minister Modi. He says that there should not be a segment of community, a segment of economy that should be waylaid. Look at everything as priority. Small, let me give you a very small example, right? He has a program which is called Atal Tinkering Lab. All right. None of the kids who go to that lab are voters. 10,000 such labs in 721 districts. That's not a voter. It doesn't get talked about. What do the kids go and do there? If you have an innovation that you'd like to support, you can use that lab. You use that lab for, let's say, pushing against what is an established engagement in a lab with regards to science. Now, those are issues which don't make headlines. They've been done, right?
Okay, gotcha. That's it. That's the end of the podcast.
Thank
I will
you.
end by saying two things. Firstly, thank you for your time. I respect you immensely.
Thank you.
Even more so after researching about this podcast. So I really appreciate you speaking to me. I will say that I think when we have a longer conversation in the future, that'll be a true podcast. This was just sort of an icebreaker.
Sarkari one?
This was a little more political than I wanted. I want to bring out your human side, honestly. I didn't get
We'll save it for my podcast.
Yeah, okay. I didn't get to interject a lot here.
That's what happens when you talk to a politician. We speak.
I hear you. No, I get it. This wasn't the ideal podcast for me, but I'm still deeply honored to have spoken to you. I know that the youth of the country desperately wants to help governance.
So what we can do
form.
is reschedule part 2 after I'm done with the press.
Okay, all right. Okay, ma'am. We will do it. Thank you. I wish you all the luck.
We can do it at my house. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Meant a lot that you spoke to us.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was only the first half of this beautiful episode. The second half is a lot more heartfelt. It's a lot deeper. And the conversationalist side of Smriti ma'am came out in the second half. So please watch till the end. Welcome back, Smriti ma'am.
Thank you for having me back again on your show.
Such a different energy around you, from you, when we're in your beautiful home. This is like...
This is not my home. This is the people's home.
But I think you're inhabiting
I'm given
this
the
space.
privilege of living here because of people who voted for me.
Are you a grizzly bear mom? You know what a grizzly bear mom is?
I don't know, but I presume that I might be one.
Like very ferocious about protecting your kids.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that is the one thing that I have learned in my entire life. I'm a kid from a broken home.
I feel like fist bumping you, but I oh really we can? Okay.
You can. So my greatest learning or takeaway from that was I want my kids to know that I'll fight death to protect them. And I think that is the best feeling a kid can have. That you have a parent who will watch out and fight the world. I can literally go to the mattresses, as they say in The Godfather, for my kids and expect nothing. Because I think that as a mother, the one blessing God has given me is that if my kid walks away from me, that's fine. Because they've been through too much for me to ask too much of them from now onwards. So I can fight for them, but I can let them go.
I had this conversation with Piyush a couple of days ago about the skill sets required for being a politician. The one thing I didn't touch upon with him was the whole people skills aspect of it. Because at its core, when you follow first principles thinking, politics is about winning over people. First, the masses.
Politics is about more than winning over people.
But
I tell you why.
Sure.
Because politicians, if they do so desire, can fool a certain number of people a certain amount of time.
Got it.
Why did you become a politician is a conversation every politician needs to have with themselves.
Why did you become a politician?
I wanted to change policy.
Okay.
I was the USAID ambassador to India on WHO. So what popularly, if I describe the aspect of that job is, you see conversations about the ORS goal with zinc. I was the ambassador who introduced it to India.
Gotcha.
I was 23 years old. Now, when I was doing that, I was going to hospitals, government hospitals, Bihar, UP, Madhya Pradesh. I also, when I used to do Sadhvi Kabhi Bahu Thi, if I would do a big ad campaign, I would take some money out and do projects to build water systems for villages.
I think the inception of this thought of you becoming a politician happened while the show was at its peak.
I'll just give you the... so I'm doing all of this and I have a big politician in Maharashtra telling me, you can keep doing this your whole life. But if you want to do systemic change, you have to become a politician and work hard enough to be a politician who can write policy. He said, because everything that happens in the country has to stem from two things, either policy or law. And for you to become a lawmaker, that should be your penultimate goal if you truly are doing all this to bring about change. And I think that gentleman was Gopinath Munde. What he said made a lot of sense. Because I at 23 felt, मैं सब कर रही हूँ. किसी के पास अगर बीमारी है उसको help कर रही हूँ. किसी के पास पानी नहीं है उसको help कर रही हूँ. And I was like, why is the system not responding? He said, but you need people in the system who will make the system respond by building policy or by building law.
Not every politician is capable of coming up with good policies.
True.
That's a thing.
It's true.
But I would assume it's a very basic part of your skill set.
No. Not at all. Not at all. And I'll tell you why. You've had a government before this, right? So you can do a comparative then and there. For instance, toilet is a big issue, right? That we are administratively addressing. Was toilet not an issue earlier? It was never a part of any political manifesto. It was never a part of any political talk. In fact, it was not a talk which is glamorous enough to be had. But it's a very basic need of a woman. But no woman ever walked up to a politician and said, "Mujhe toilet bana ke dijiye." These are conversations that were never had in our country. If you do a research, in 2013 you will find, and this has happened on TV channels, IBN 7, all these guys have done the debates, but everybody forgets. 40% of sexual assaults against women were happening when they were going out to defecate in the morning or at night. Can you imagine? Our country never had a menstrual hygiene administrative system in it. Why is it important? People will say, kya hai? So let's imagine that you are a girl in a school. Your school has to provide you a sanitary pad. Was that a conversation earlier? When was the last you passed out of school? I passed out of school in 94. It was never a conversation. If it's a sarkari school, that means I have to put up a sanitary pad ka machine. उसका मतलब उसका budget कहीं से आएगा? मेरे अकेले के स्कूल में नहीं होगा, सबके स्कूल में होगा. वो बजट स्टेट से नहीं आएगा तो सेंटर से आएगा. तो बजट एक बार आपने डाल दिया, सैनिटरी पैड लगा दिया मशीन, तो उसका डिस्पोजल कैसे होगा? तो सरकार इज अ थिंग विच सेज अच्छा, इफ एक्स हैज टू बी डन, you have to look at every aspect of how that issue is to be done. So if you talk about sanitary pad, how do I make it available? I have to make it available so that it's affordable, right? So today there is Jan Aushadhi Kendra, 9,000 of them across the country. And $1 sanitary pad is available across the country. But if I have to get it into a school, I also have to have a disposal strategy.
Are you explaining policy making through this example?
Yeah.
Okay. This is what goes in.
But if you're not conscientious of these aspects, would you make the policy then?
It's like product design from a very macro country level.
But you have to do it. You're talking macro, but I have to look at the micro picture. That fine. मैंने उसके हाथ में सैनिटरी पैड ₹1 का दे भी दिया, वो फेंकेंगे कहाँ पे?
Empathy.
Empathy and it has multiple layers of effect. I'll tell you why. You as a country are committed to environmental standards to be maintained. Can you have menstrual hygiene products just chucked all over the country in some corner? No. So when the Prime Minister gives a clarion call, don't do single-use plastic. It is not only an international commitment for making sure that you are reaching sustainable development goals. It is also to say that when you chuck plastic outside, who's eating it? Stray animals?
Gotcha.
And so it's a whole consciousness. So when the Prime Minister says, let's do Swachh Bharat, which Prime Minister has ever said this? But why are you saying it? If you inculcate a feeling that I need to keep my city clean, will I then attract more and more people in terms of investments or tourists? Yes. Will I have a civic sense which is ingrained into a generation? My generation's seeing things chucked all over the place. My kids' generation is conscientious enough to say, don't do this.
Okay.
But can it be only that kid doing it? What happens when it becomes a social network? Then, as a part of the social network, you have people saying, okay, you have a problem disposing it. Can I use technology and give you an easier way or a more affordable way of disposing of this waste? This is the most non-glamorous conversation to have. But it just tells you that as a politician or as a policymaker, when I sit down, I have to think through all of these layers. So to be a good politician, only being a people pleaser is not enough.
Okay.
First, you have to decide, why do you want to be a politician? I was very clear. I wanted to be a politician to make policy. I had the privilege of building India's first MOOCs platform called Swayam. But we built it when digital education was not the in thing, right? Prime Minister Modi then said Digital India and everybody said, what is this nonsense? From the opposition, everybody attacked, kaun karega Hindustan mein digital payments? Today, you can't imagine not paying digitally. So, like I said, skill set, one, not only people pleaser, you have to have passion for a thing or two in the policy segment. The third issue is, you need to do things for your people way before they become a huge necessity or an emergency arrives.
Stitch in time saves 9.
Yes, but there are many times when you don't know what is to be stitched. Can you preempt it?
You have conversations? People?
Of course.
That's how you figure, oh, this is what's wrong in their life.
No, the issue is not only having conversations with people, right? The issue is you as a country have missed out on many a decades where you could have reached many a new standards vis-a-vis internationally how development is recognized.
Like South Korea did in the same time.
It's like you can't do apples and oranges.
Mm.
I, as an Indian, feel we are now at a time in our history, globally or domestically, where we've seen situations fail across the world. We've seen what works across the world. We are great adapters. And I think one of the greatest opportunities where we learned about our own strengths was when COVID came.
Yeah.
Everybody who spoke, and I still remember a conversation with a representative in UN Women New York. So a statement came out that in India, 80% of women now will be getting beaten up at home because they're all indoors. And I called that colleague in New York. He said, how did you make this statement? I said, give me empirical evidence. Why is it that you presume that 80% women in my country will get beaten up at home? Are you telling me that 80% men in marriages or partnerships in my country have nothing better to do but beat up their female partner? No, it is our projected fear. I said, can you imagine doing this to your country and saying, oh, I project a particular fear with no empirical evidence? I said, I would like you to withdraw that statement right now. I can compute. We had 35 helplines functional across the country. The National Commission for Women's Office was 24/7 operational. State commissions were operational. Police was operational. I said, you find me one case where a woman says that I'm trying to reach out and there's nobody who wants to help. I had fast track courts running. I had victims under protection. I had people in women's homes that were functional, children's homes that were functional. We were monitoring all these establishments. I said, you sit there in New York and you pontificate about my country without empirical evidence.
Yeah.
I said, it's very easy to be this kind of a feminist who say, oh, acha, hua hoga. I said, nonsense. Every man in my country is not a female shamer or a wife beater or a rapist. So I think as a politician, like you said, what are the skill sets? The biggest skill set, are you passionate about your country, about your people? Because people pleasing is not the correct aptitude. There are many times you have to say no.
Yeah, winning over people's hearts, maybe not pleasing.
No, Ranveer.
How do you get them to follow you?
You see, a good leader takes you where you ought to be.
Okay. You change their life and therefore...
You have to bring in a system of, for instance, what did Prime Minister Modi first say? I have to reach out and give clean fuel to the poorest of the poor. I can't afford to do it. If some of you who have extra subsidies don't need it, can give it up. Can you give it up? 1 crore people gave it up.
Yep.
Now, as a politician, he could have very well said, "Arey yaar, jeet gaye, bahut badi margin se, historic ho gaya. Let the games begin. Let everybody be happy." He's taken very tough decisions.
Yeah.
And if you're a part of his team, he tells you, okay, don't do your politics so that you can get your 2 minutes of fame on a TV channel or a newspaper. If you have the capacity to withstand headwinds and do good by your people, even if you get bad press, just do it. And I think it's very rare to get such a boss. If you're genuinely true to your people, you have to be honest with them. So as an Amethi MP, there are people who walk up to me and say, ye kar dijiye. कानून की मर्यादा के अंतर्गत नहीं है. And I say a flat out no. Will I be pleasing those people that day? Absolutely not. But at least my people know that if you reach out to your MP, it's something which is legitimate, she'll get it done.
I've asked a lot of people from a lot of industries this question, and I'd love to know what you think. How big a role do you think destiny, luck, circumstance, and maybe even karma?
All of it.
Okay. You think it plays a role in where you end up in life?
Yep.
Let's just talk about circumstance and destiny, and maybe not karma here. But there was a reason you met Gopinath Munde who put that thought in your head, and therefore you went on this path. One layer deep, why do you think God has chosen your soul to do what you're doing?
I have no idea.
Okay.
And anybody who tells you they have an idea is lying.
Do you think about this?
No.
You don't
I just
question?
say thank you.
Sorry?
I just say thank you.
Okay.
Because I believe that the fact that I have the opportunity is not an opportunity for me to question why.
Okay. Fair enough.
I would rather spend my energies to say thank you for giving me the opportunity. And it's an opportunity which is renewed every day.
Yeah.
I have taken policy decision this morning, which I hadn't taken last time we spoke.
Have you played a sport in school?
Of course, I was a sports captain.
I remember something about basketball.
Competitive
Yeah.
from the very beginning.
Right?
Basketball, cycling,
You
judo
remember?
a little bit, but
Oh,
yeah, my kids have
same.
outdone me on the martial arts.
Oh, okay.
They're third dan black belts and
Le-
record holders.
Let's talk judo and basketball because I'm a judoka myself and I've played a little basketball. Remember Randori felt like fighting? when you're in a match, a judo match,
Yeah.
your brain enters a state of intensity because you
I
have to
think
take
your
out the
brain
other person.
enters a state of when you actually peak, and this is my experience, others may differ from it. When you actually are at your peak from a performance point of view, I go completely blank.
Your body
For
just
me,
takes over.
it just takes over,
Mm.
and you have to reach that goal. You just reach the goal.
Okay. How often do you get called by people for favors? Or
Nobody calls me for favors because anybody who knows me knows I will not go out of the realms of law to accommodate, adjust, and please anybody. Which makes me a horrible person to know. कि आप ये करते ही नहीं ये थोड़ा सा favor मैं इसको जानती हूँ. No. Because I am to work without fear of favor. That is my job constitutionally.
I'm assuming that once you have a family and you have kids, loneliness ends. But if you don't have a family and kids
I
of
think
your
that's
own,
the biggest. I will use this very, very word, very, very.
misconception.
Misconception is a better word than crap.
Yes. So there is a aspect of you feeling lonely.
I think that one of the biggest myths is that you can be surrounded in a crowd of people you love and not be lonely. I think given conversations today which oscillate between loneliness and depression, the huge difference about between the word loneliness and wanting time for yourself.
Solitude. Okay.
So I can love my kids to death and not sit on their heads 24/7.
But more
give
power.
them that space and give myself that space.
More power leaves you lonely.
I think it's all melodrama. It is. It is melodrama.
Do you meditate?
Absolutely.
Okay.
With my son would possibly smile and say, nonsense. But yes.
Like you sit for dhyana.
I'm a very, very hyper human being. So to say that I'll sit every day as a practice would be a lie. But yes, I don't want to sound mumbo jumbo. Spiritually know exactly when to sit would be more accurate.
Okay.
I know exactly when my soul has to be fed.
Yeah. I'm at a stage in my own meditation journey where my mentors have advised me stop. If they've said, stop intellectualizing your meditation and just do the technique. Because I'm constantly thinking about my businesses, my podcast, my own growth.
I think that you just know when you need it.
It's like fasting for the brain.
You just know when you need it. You know exactly when you need the silences. You know when you need the meditation. You know when you are in a crowd, but still you are you and just there, not there. You know when you have completely consumed all the love that you're surrounded by. As an individual, if you have that state of awareness about yourself, you're set. That's the most beautiful realization in life.
What do you think of right before you fall asleep? And what do you think of
Nothing.
as your first thought in the morning?
Nothing.
Both.
Blank. I think it's just a great feeling.
Second last thought then before the nothingness begins.
Blank. This is what everybody who meditates and is spiritually connected to aspires. It sounds again, like I said, mumbo jumbo. My entire life has been about my conversation with my God. And I have never been left alone for me to have multiple thoughts about ye karna, wo karna. No. When I go to bed, thank you, God. If I wake up tomorrow, thank you, God. Wake up tomorrow, look at the sun. The first thing, look at the sun. Beautiful day. Some part of it will be good, some part of it will be bad. It's a day, you're alive.
But it takes time to reach the stage of mental contentment that
Absolutely.
Hmm.
I will not say that it's something that happens very early on in life. Especially, I've had a life which has been a life full of opportunities, but at the same time, a lot of challenges. There have been challenges, there have been controversies that I've dealt with publicly. It hasn't been easy. It is comparatively easy when it's only you, and more difficult when it's your kids and somebody you love. And I think that if I am to look at what I have done best in life, it is to know how to adjust to loss.
to laws,
Loss.
to loss.
Loss of friendships, loss of relationships, loss of people, loss of control in situations is all a part of life.
Detachment.
I've learned detachment.
I think Chanakya has written, I forgot the exact name of the book. I think it was the Chanakya Niti, where he's explained how you should be running a country. It's like a guidebook for politicians. 2 questions. 1, do you guys study Chanakya's writings? And 2, there's a part of it that says that the final aspect of being a great politician or a leader is the ability to give it up.
Yes.
What does this mean?
That you can walk away
from all the power, from all the clout, from
everything. I've walked away before from a career. I have walked away from a media career when I was at my peak, not when my career had come to a standstill. So I know what it's like to walk away.
Pardon me for saying this. No, say it straight up, okay?
Say.
I get a lot of Durga Mata energy.
It's the painting, it's not me.
Feel like there's like a Mata or something in front of me.
See, I told you the Mata problem will happen. No, I think I've been very lucky. I have been lucky from 5 perspectives. Let me say this. Somebody I absolutely loved, who was the center of my life and who gave me what I am today as a persona. Somebody who helped me read, understand life, learn how to forgive. That person died when I was 13. And for me, I could not imagine living a life which did not respect his belief in me. That is one. Second, I always tell people that people see the razzmatazz after Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi. They see the power of the politician. I have been at a place where I had $200 in my pocket. I have walked from Mahalakshmi station to Famous Studio in absolute fever, only to be told how horrid an actor I was. And gone back home and wondered the next day, if I don't get a job, I am done. What will I do? I still remember that fear, the humiliation. And I think it is important to remember it because it keeps you grounded no matter who you become in life.
Possibly a little motivated as.
No, it teaches you how people value you if you were just you. What is your value just as you? It's nothing. I remember when I had my first child, I had to go back to work 2 days after giving birth because I had no money. And I went through a cycle where when I was pregnant, I used to sit, if anybody has seen the Balaji old office, and if you remember 20 years ago, whoever, it was a broken road. My cameraman, my makeup artist used to come in cars. I used to come in auto. And they used to be scared. They used to say, "Arey ma'am, aapko itna bada, you're pregnant heavily, you're coming, you'll fall someday, something will happen. You'll go into a basement work and everything. You have the baby, 2 days later, you know you have to come back to work." and you're alone because your husband has found a job overseas, you are 24, 25 years old. So you manage the baby, you manage your job, you break your bones. My bones hurt till this day because I've been working like that. So no matter what I become in life, I know what it's like to be alone at 24, 25. The baby who's 2 days old. And I'll never forget that. And the last thing, I know this is temporary.
Life itself?
Life itself. Life itself, everybody knows, but nobody believes it till it's too late. So I know that everybody I love and many that I have loved will leave me either out of deceit or because they don't exist anymore. The issue is, can you forgive, forget, and move on? So I have learned how to forget.
Detachment. I think that's the core of this whole
There-
conversation. There is this one final question that I don't bring up on the podcast often, but I only bring it up for a few of my guests. It's a psychological test that a psychologist friend of mine told me about. I feel like you've already done this, so it may not even work. But without thinking too much, like very fast, just name 3 animals.
3 animals: tiger, monkey, and scorpio.
Scorpion. Are you a Scorpio? Okay. So
I have no idea why I said Scorpio. I was thinking snake, which is right up my alley as a politician.
Do you know what I'm going to say now?
Nope.
According to that psychologist friend of mine, they say that when you name these 3 animals, the first animal is what you project yourself as
But I'm a monkey.
on the outside. The second is often how people might perceive you,
Oh.
keeping in mind all the positives of the animals you've named. And
Monkey is nothing positive.
No, there is Tinkero,
Unless you're Bajrang Bali.
policy. Tinkero. The third one is your true nature on the inside. Yeah. Which is what? Which
Take
is,
out the Scorpio.
don't mess with me. Quiet
Don't
doing.
mess with any mother. It's not about, I think it's most women who are mothers don't verbalize it, but we are all the same. That's why I think one of my most surreal experiences when I was in the International Parliamentary Union. This is not, again, oft known about me. I was chosen as, I was elected from the Asia Pacific region for the Syrian crisis and drafting a resolution for it. And we were 10 women sitting. Some was a defense minister, somebody was, those kind of positions. Everybody had the same problem when it came from their personal experiences. So I think intrinsically women all kind of align on certain issues, no matter who they are, where they're working.
I think it's why you get so much support as well. It's a big part of the support you get. All the women. I've never heard a lady say anything bad about you, honestly, in party conversations and all.
That's
Like,
kind of them. I think
they
it's
might have a different political opinion, but they'll always
because every
celebrate you.
woman goes through the same route, the same ruckus. Many of us don't verbalize it. If you notice, if you've seen conversations, right, you will see every time in a seminar with a female politician, I get one question asked every time. औरतों के लिए आपके पास क्या एडवाइस है? क्यों मर्दों को नहीं चाहिए? So if you notice, it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
As if there is no recognition that by her very nature, a woman knows exactly what she wants to do, how she wants it done. It's just that whether she has decided to do it or not.
Boys, it's good we didn't ask that question. No, I'm kidding. That's not
But
planned.
it genuinely, I feel, and I say this vehemently many a times. There are times when you've told me and said, ma'am, 13 साल के बच्चे देख रहे हैं. I'm like, get a dictionary. Does not matter. Because I remember once I got up in Parliament, and I'm a self-taught person. I got up in Parliament, I was saying something, and then I said oxymoron. And Venkaiah Naidu ji was on the chair as the Vice President of India. He called me 2 hours later. He says, I went back to my chambers, got the dictionary out and said, exactly what did she say? Oxymoron, was it offensive? I wanted to check. So I think that from a female perspective, I see all these things because I've been in the trenches. I've been poor. I've been disenfranchised. But I've always been emphatic about the need to fight back. So when you describe me, how I don't project myself as a tiger, though people will perceive me as one because I have absolutely a no-nonsensical approach to life. People tell me life is in the gray, not in the black. And I don't believe in all that. I don't live in the gray. I'm very clear, black or white. Secondly, though I said the monkey is, you said is the tinkerer, the monkey is restless. So if psychologically you're testing me, then yes, there is a side of me which is restless because I once turned around and said, "Mujhe life mein kuch karna hai." And this is after becoming a cabinet minister. And Zubin looked at me and said, "Are you kidding me? Haven't you done enough?" I'm like, no. I want to do something. And third, when you said that, this is a person not to be messed with, snake or the Scorpio, I totally agree.
Also, scorpions live in tough environments and survive.
Yeah, but if you project it in the Indian society the way you're hoping to have an understanding of it, you will get a negative connotation to it. So yes, I'm not somebody that you will have. I didn't get where I got by being walked all over on.
Yeah. I think you took all the punches.
I
kept moving forward.
But I always tell people, I say, you hit me once, I'll hit back.
No?
It has happened to me. As a kid, it's happened. I got whacked by a guy. I whacked him twice. And he was just looking at me. I said, what did you think? I'm some abla nari who's going to just take a gusanda from you. I've had my scars because of it.
Not unexpected.
I think that is you have one life, Ranveer. And I said this to my parents when I was 17 years old. It's my entire life, I'm going to live as your kid. Then I'm going to marry some guy. I'm going to live as his wife. Then I'll have babies. I'll be their mom. When do I live life for myself? I would rather live life on my terms, pay the cost for it. If the glory is, then it be mine. Than live in this state of helplessness. Most people get angry or bitter because they didn't take control of their life. So I will make mistakes. And I tell people, if anybody is watching right now, I would like them to know, you will make mistakes. You're human. Accept that responsibility. But you have one life. Live it on your terms. Know the cost to be paid for every decision. There is a cost. Let's not romanticize it. It's not going to be easy, especially if you've been poor. I've been poor in 2 cities. And I know of the kindness of strangers. I know of humiliation. If you've decided, there is nothing in the world you can't achieve. But it's a lot of hard work. My bones still creak. And they will creak to the day I die. But I will die with a straight spine.
Mate, thank you.
Brate, no problem.
No,
and
seriously.
there comes the proverbial sun.
No, it was a great conversation. Thank you. I have a feeling I'm going to be talking to you a lot more in the future. As I said,
look forward to it. Very, very happy to see you. This is not a part of the normal conversation, but let me just say this, and I hope you keep it because it's not. I have a 21-year-old son. You're 29. You've done whatever you've done in life. You've still managed to sort it all out.
Emotionally,
you have sorted out work, life, everything, and you're in the process of sorting out many other things. But you know what is good about it? That you're not myopic enough to know that you're Mr. Know-It-All. So you've gathered a huge audience. Always be true to them.
yes, ma'am.
And the day you think that you can't do it anymore, leave. But people believe in you. The only thing that keeps me going as a politician or as a human being is that those who believe in me should feel that she did her best. And that's what I hope for you too.
Thank you. Means a lot. I hate saying this because I'm self-promoting here, but real life, real recognize real, everybody.
Oh my God. Do well. Do
Thank you,
well.
ma'am.
I
Thank you.
hope for your mother's sake, do well.
This is the
That's
best
what
moment of her life.
everything any mom wants, that her kid does well. I hope. That's what I keep telling God, that whatever I've done in life, just make sure my kids are all right. Nothing else. That's the only ambition I have.
Thank you, ma'am. Want to talk to you again. That's all I'll
Look
say.
forward to the
And
conversation.
thank you for giving us so much time. Thank you for talking this way. Says a lot about you, especially with everything else that's going on in your life. You just paused and spoke to me. So this meant the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That was our 2-in-1 special of the Ranveer Show. It was an absolute pleasure speaking to Smriti ma'am because she understood the media side of the world. I'd had a very open conversation with her. I told her that it's very important for us to have that second half as a part of this episode because as a podcaster, I didn't feel like I brought out the human side well enough in the first part. She was kind enough to oblige, and that's what resulted in this epic 2-in-1 special. I'm sure Smriti ma'am is going to return on the show. At the end of this episode, all I want to say is that I learned a lot from this 2-part special, and I'm getting better as a politics-oriented podcaster, though we're keeping it non-political in these conversations. Once again, a massive thanks to MyGov India, and TRS is going to be back very soon with a lot more non-political, political conversations.